Okay, so at this point, I'm teaching. The kids and I are vibing. We're really developing a rapport. I'm so excited to we were gonna have like the SAT Olympics, and I had all these ideas. I wanted to show them like a little bit of the show K Town. I know it was like incredibly inappropriate. If anyone knows about it, it's about these Korean kids in LA, and they're like in their early 20s. They call it like the Korean like Jersey Shore. I mean, I wasn't going to show them the whole thing, but I was just going to show them like a tiny bit, just because I wanted them to like be able to see Korean Americans and hear Korean American accents. And it's just kind of, I just know how being African American, seeing reflection of yourself is important, like on TV, and knowing that people look like you are out there, and being represented and stuff like that. So, so I just wanted to show them, a little bit of this. And I was going to tie it into the lesson about language and, stuff like that. So we were having so much fun. I was really getting to know the personality of the students in the classroom and everything. And then, of course, here comes SKB throwing some hate. He's like, "Oh, we need to talk about how you're teaching." The thing is, I was working with them on speaking, because they have to take this like speaking test called the TOEFL. It's like teaching of English as a foreign language, and they have to take this test in order to get into English speaking universities. If that's not your first language, it's a very, very difficult test. I mean, most English speakers probably won't even do that well on this test. So I've been working on speaking. What I didn't realize is that, like, I thought the school that we were at was, going to be Indonesian kids. Now, these are Indonesian kids, but they're a South Korean background. So what I ended up learning is a lot of their parents send them to Jakarta. Like a lot of their fathers might work for corporations and live in these compounds, like Samsung or whatever. And some of them own factories, outside of Jakarta, and there's not a lot of South Koreans in those places. So sometimes the fathers will send the wife and the children to Jakarta to live, and then the father will live in the factory. Sometimes maybe come home on the weekends. Maybe they take a 4-hour commute. I don't know. And then it's like giving the kids an opportunity to be exposed to like South Korean culture, So anyway, what I also learned, I mean, I knew Korean education was hardcore. I mean, Korean students are very infamous for being very smart in the United States. I mean, yes, I'm stereotyping, but, education is taken very seriously in the household. It's taken very seriously at an early age, especially if you're from South Korea. And when I'm saying serious, I mean that, these kids are taking these standardized tests, at a very early age, just like in America, and everything. But it's like if kids aren't scoring a certain score, and I mean like perfect or 1 or 2 points from perfect, some of them are committing suicide. Like they throw themselves off the balcony because they think like their life is over, or like they think they're like destined, to have these low-paying jobs, and it may be the case in some, because I mean the culture is different. There may not be as much opportunity. I don't know all the details, but this is coming from SKB, who's from South Korea, and this is also coming from the students when they would write in their like different essays. They would tell me about these things. Okay. Also, SKB told us, like our class when we were back in California, that up until several years ago, corporal punishment was still allowed in the schools in South Korea. And he and this other girl demonstrated. The other girl, she was a lot younger, so she didn't really come up in that era. But I think SKB, he came up in that era, and then as well as like when it was outlawed. So because of that, I think like a small part of him kind of maybe feels like kids have it easy now or something. It's kind of like, I mean, I just know sometimes with like African American culture. Well, it's just not just black folks in America. I mean, it's a lot of people, but like sometimes there's this idea of like, well, I was beat or spanked, by my grandmother or mother, so like spanking's okay, and I'm going to do that with my child. I mean, I don't really want to spank. I don't have children, but I don't want to start off spanking my kid. I mean, I don't want to spank my kid, and I don't plan to like try and implement that. Just because I know the long-term damage, is way more detrimental than the short term of just that moment of discipline. So I think it was kind of like that mentality, and people just do a lot of times what was done to them or what they think. So if that worked or didn't work on them, then they think like, well, my mom spanked me, I turned out okay. So it was kind of that vibe I got. And like he actually showed in our class what the kids would do. And they would have to kneel on a chair on their knees, and then the teacher would come around with like a ruler and would smack them in between like their knee and their like upper thigh. So yeah, education system is very serious and very severe. I feel like in Korea, South Korea. I don't think it's like, oh, follow your dreams, like in America. Do what makes you happy, and you can go to college, but you don't have to. Like it's just America is all about the freedom, and it's just a different society, different culture. Not saying one is worse or not, but I mean, I don't believe in beating kids in school. So anyway, what was my point? Okay, so what I was attempting to do, the way we learned during our certification program, is how to teach students who learn visually. Some learn more, are more audio driven when they learn. Some need to like touch and, be active and get up out of their seat. Some, maybe need to write, and reflect. So we were learning like all these different techniques and all these different ways to reach people, which I love because I'm a visual learner, and a lot of times, it's very difficult for me to learn information, by just like taking notes or just, or if I do take notes, I gotta like draw a storyboard or have some point of reference. So I just loved that we were learning these techniques. SKB was in the same class. He was like, oh, this is fantastic information, and it's going to really help in the classroom, and like he was all about it and everything. Well, my classes, I was trying to just follow. Well, I was kind of doing what I wanted to do, still teaching them information, but then also I was doing what he wanted me to do, and it became boring. Like it was just like this like rote like memorization, and just like there was no variety in the way he wanted everything to be taught. And even like one of the students, I was asking one of the students, I was like, how do you guys, learn your vocabulary? I'm like, do you guys make flashcards or, I'm thinking of like fun games, ways for them to make it. Cause he would just go in and like drill them, and just be like, compassion, comrade, camaraderie, and just like, and the kids have to be, just like given these definitions. And I mean, every day, and so the kids were like, he has us do this and we don't even understand what the words mean. We're just memorizing them. We don't even know what they mean. I mean, like, kids are so sweet. I mean, they're just so honest and pure, in what they're saying. So anyway, in taking these standardized tests, I'm like, timing is so important. They have like 90 seconds to answer a question verbally, not in their language, remember. So they got to think about the answer in another language, structure it, and then give a cohesive answer and speak loud enough and pronunciate and enunciate the words and speak clearly and everything. So, they had a lot of that down. So I was just thinking of ways to like fine tune it. And so I just said, well, if they're taking a standardized test, they need to start having stopwatches in front of them, so they can gauge. Because I was trying to explain to them, like, sometimes you might be answering a question and then you might be speaking really fast like this because you only know, have so much time left and you want to, in conclusion, this is your answer, But then you might have too much time left. And then there's a way that you can still speak, slow down your answer, and still be able to answer the question in enough time and have 10 seconds. But you're seeing what I'm saying. So I was trying to teach them like these different ways because they had like the structure down. And I mean, I could see it in their eyes, like anyone that teaches or has been a student, like I could just see it like ding, like it was clicking, and they were like, oh, and I was just giving them like these little test tips, and you know, getting to know them, still playing games. And I noticed like when we would be having fun in the classroom and maybe laughing or whatever, sometimes he would like knock on the door and like come in to like go get a book. He just wanted to see what was going on, and see that we were having fun. And then, of course, it's like all the students were like, oh, we love your class, and everything. And of course, I know I was like the new teacher, and, I'm just different and everything. I mean, I think they generally did like the class. However, I just know how it is when you're a student. But I could tell he was like getting jealous. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? It's like, first you want to stress me and pressure me about teaching these students. And then now that I'm developing rapport and like being creative and using the tools that we learned, now you're upset. So then when I was going to leave the class, and I made the suggestion about the stopwatches, he's going to say, yeah, I think starting next week, I need to start sitting in on your classes. I want to just kind of see how you're teaching. And are you studying the information? Are you studying the SAT like I asked you to? And I'm like, what is this attitude? You know what I mean? Like, here I'm like the only teacher at this school. The other teacher she was like on maternity leave and came back and then had another baby and was on maternity leave. She can't work evenings. It's just like she just has a lot more limited time, and and he's not really even utilizing her to her full potential. So I'm just kind of like, what? Like, why aren't we trying to like pull together and work as a team? And I even noticed like the way he kind of treats the other teacher. It's very similar. So it was just so bizarre. And then he's like hating on this apartment. And then he's not giving me information so I can like figure out how to go meet my new friend, Diana, at this social gathering. He doesn't want to help with that. Something was not adding up, So what ends up happening next, because I'm feeling it in my spirit. I'm feeling it in my gut. I'm getting that like vibe of like, Donald, you got to get out of here, girl. Then it's like, boom, my body like starts to react to it too.